Right, good evening and welcome to the webinar for Module 2 of Unit 1, which covers communication and influence. We can first of all go over some technical questions to make sure that everybody can hear. Please raise your hand on the question panel if you cannot hear me. Just give all learners a chance to raise their hands. No hands are going up, so hopefully that means everybody can hear me clearly tonight. I'm just trying to get to the next slide, but the screen seems to be taking time in uploading. So I'll carry on through. If you do lose connection tonight for any reason, refer to the email guidance on how to dial in via telephone. We are recording the session to share in retrospect, which means you can revisit the session afterwards if you do have any connection issues. Remember that Wi-Fi is a slower connection and can sometimes cause you a delay or dropout, so remember it is best to be on a hard cable into your internet connection wherever possible when attending. A note as well on questions is that there are controls on your dashboard. Raise your hand, type a question or self-mute as needed. You can also click on view and check or uncheck the auto hide dashboard. At all times you will see the little bar on the left with a microphone symbol, the raise hand icon and a green area to show the main dashboard. There will be time for questions at the end. You will be muted for webinar sessions to avoid feedback coming through my microphone, as this can make it difficult for myself and others to hear, as it can create a delay. I will unmute learners to ask a question during the session. Please click the raise hand icon on your webinar dashboard and I will unmute you so that you can speak. If you cannot use your microphone for any reason, you can type a question via the question panel instead, and I can read that out and answer it for you. I'm just going to try the screen again because it seems to have frozen on us tonight. Further to my email on Wednesday, learners will have the opportunity to share the area of personal effectiveness that they have decided to develop for Unit 1. We've had two brave learners come forward, so thank you to them, and I'll introduce them at the end. After questions, there will be a chance for brief overviews to let the group know the area chosen, why, and ideas on how this will be developed. If other learners want to add, then raise your hand on the panel so that I can unmute you. It will be great to use tonight's webinar to share experiences in the workplace. So let's get started on communication and influence. Following on from Module 1, this module introduces two main topics, that is communication and influence, and their relationship to the topic of Module 1, personal effectiveness, how to improve and increase your personal effectiveness whilst remaining ethical. The module requires you to first consider the nature of communication and what qualities are required to be an effective communicator. This is both from an individual and group perspective. Secondly, you will learn about personal influence and sources of power and its relationship to effectiveness, again on an individual and organisational perspective. At the end of this module, you will have researched and gained knowledge about key concepts of communication and influence, understand different forms of communication, influencing people, techniques for developing your own self-awareness. So first off, communication. Communication, as we know, includes reading, writing, speaking and listening. And the school business manager has to be able to carry out good communication in all of these areas. You may have past experience either involving yourself or a colleague about the upset and confusion caused by a bad piece of communication within your organisation. Bad communication may be not presenting well, lack of explanation or a misunderstanding of the situation and change impact. Although we can correct a memo or report and reissue it, the impression is left there about our professionalism, which could impact in the future. It will be interesting for you to refer to this and reflect on leaders and managers in your school and their methods of communication. So we use communication to instruct through such as school memorandums, motivate, inset training and meetings, persuade, meetings definitely, encourage through professional review meetings and appraisals, negotiate again via meetings, understand through emails and meetings, listen, feedback, request information and give advice, and also make decisions and record those decisions as in minutes of meetings. There is a lot of theory on communication. In the 7 habits of highly effective people, one of the habits that Covey refers to is seek first to understand and then be understood. And this relates directly to communication. Covey helps to explain this in his simple analogy, diagnose before you prescribe. This is simple and effective and essential for developing and maintaining positive relationships in all aspects of life. Learners are to refer to the associated sections on empathy, transactional analysis, and the Johari window within your modules. So let's first identify the difficulties that arise in communication. These mainly centre around differences in meaning placed on the message, which can be affected by behaviour, action, words used and disposition of both communicator and receiver, and then can result in assumptions, bias, misunderstanding, differences of opinion, and so on. Therefore, we have to reflect on communication holistically and consider our behaviour / bias and understand the point of view and reception our messages will get. This is a relevant skill for any manager, but for the school business manager with the variety of stakeholders that we have to develop interpersonal relationships with, it is crucial to get it right. Consider the average day of a school business manager. Communication can include negotiating with contractors, holding staff meetings, reporting to governors, instructing legislation or health and safety regulations to staff, explaining payroll to staff, and so on. To be effective and make efficient use of our time, we need to be able to be appropriate and good communicators. To summarise, as managers, we need to be aware of both verbal and non-verbal communication so that we can be sure that we have given and received the intended message and not put our own paradigm onto the message. Daniel Goleman, in his book Emotional Intelligence, argues that our emotions and beliefs play a far greater role in thought, decision-making and individual success than is commonly acknowledged. Research has shown that an individual will receive information through communication and then shape the message and influence it by that person's experiences, perceptions and beliefs. This is because a message about feelings and attitudes is conveyed mainly by facial expression and body language, then by tone, and only a small part by the words that are spoken. I know that in my role as a business manager, I attend different meetings, some that I chair, some that I advise in, and some that I attend and input. All meetings require staff time, which is a valuable cost resource for schools, and meetings have to be efficient and productive. I have attended meetings where a discussion might take place that, although interesting to the audience and attendees, it does not necessarily apply to the reason for the meeting. I have observed that the informal meetings can often end in this way, whereas the more formal meetings with agendas, minutes, and a designated chairperson tend to stay to the set criteria. It would be interesting for you to observe a meeting that you attend and keep a log of the time actually used for the purpose of the meeting, and if applicable, the time used unproductively. The intention may have been to share information, and this is valuable, but question if this was the original reason for the meeting. So, action points for an effective meeting. Circulate a notice, agenda, and relevant information to all concerned. Always include the time, date, and place, and make sure that you have booked a meeting room and considered areas such as refreshments. Start the meeting. Introduce the meeting's purpose. This avoids attendees who may have a different view on the need for the meeting and then leave the meeting negative about the outcome. So inform the group if it is to collect it or provide information or opinions, make decisions, form ideas, put across a case for change, action and complete tasks. Management of the meeting. This would be done by the chair, who needs to be conscious of everyone participating by providing a question space. Any other business should have been agreed in advance of the meeting, ensuring that the meeting information and discussions remain relevant. Clarify summaries, direct the discussion and stay on task. Check that the minute taker is able to summarise the information and record actions and/or decisions. And at the end of the meeting, it is to end on time with a summary of progress and actions before the next meeting. Agree the date and time of the next meeting. Circulate minutes as soon as possible. Another area of communications is presentations. Increasingly, school business managers as professionals are required to present reports and information for a decision by stakeholders. Often this can be in the form of a presentation. You will be able to research various reading, podcasts and media on successful presenting, such as in TED Talks. There are two main points that each one will cover, and that is to be heard and be interesting. At an inset event that I attended recently, a speaker who was very engaging told the group to always remind yourself that the audience love you and want to hear what you have to say, and that this is a great compliment. Therefore, rather than be scared of it, we should be proud and embrace it in being in the position to present. We get heard and remain interesting by having a clear focus on the message, the medium, using rapport, and retaining the interest of our audience. One of the most famous presenters is Steve Jobs, founder of Apple. He keeps slides to a minimal with little information on them and keeps the focus on him. You may want to watch examples on YouTube. A good presentation is getting the balance right. The message, avoid complication and write down in one sentence the main message that you want your audience to take away. Rapport, build a rapport, a connection. Sue Mosley gets her audience to partake in a clapping game at the start of her presentation. However, this may not be suitable for presenting to governors or trustees. Retention. How will the audience remember your message when they leave? Although rapport is important, you do want them to remember your message rather than the entertainment value of your presentation. The medium. I think we have all experienced the death by PowerPoint and the presentation that you are amazed at the amount of colour that could be used in one slide. You need to be aware of not distracting your audience totally with the medium. but that it reinforces your message. So as with anything in the manager's work schedule, it comes down to planning, and that is exactly what makes a successful presentation. You can refer to Hindle 1998, which is in the resources, for key aspects of presentation. And he actually says that it's to define your purpose for the presentation, think about the audience and know them, think about the venue, about the room setup, how you want it to look, whether it's informal or formal. Objectives, know what you want from the presentation. Material, use research and explore. Structure, make sure it runs in order. Speaking, use natural speech and words familiar to you. Rehearse, practice so that you know your presentation. Self-preparation, what will you wear? Learn to relax and believe in yourself. Delivery, control your nerves, speak confidently, use eye contact and body language, and most of all, create your own style. And then closure, build in a strong conclusion and go over the main points for your audience. So now we move on to influencing people in the workplace. Initially, you may think that influence is to do with power and control, but Module 2 will ask you to think about your daily interactions as school business managers and the amount of times during our day or week we ask staff, other leaders, the principal or head teacher to consider a new idea or system. Now let's look at why we may not always be successful at influencing people. It comes down to the saying, you can take a horse to water, but you cannot make it drink. As school business managers, we have the power as team line managers to influence others, but it will be the individuals of that team who choose to change their behaviours. We cannot make them. Therefore, influencing is a two-way process where we as managers need to actively listen to others and make sure that we are listened to. The University of Kent, as you can see, have done this table and diagram with arrows that go over negotiating, persuading, and tips that influencing people. Persuading involves being able to convince others to take appropriate action. Negotiating involves being able to discuss and reach a mutually satisfactory agreement. And influencing encompasses both of these. On page 20 of Module 2, you will find the methods of influence table drawn up by Murdoch and Scott 2003. The methods are separated as negative and positive. The power to influence and the sources of this power is highlighted as well by Raven 2008. These include positional, resources, punishment, knowledge, connections, charisma, and style as examples. There are many different sources of power, and you will come across these in your professional life. Some you may draw upon yourself, and the level to which you do will be based on your own perceptions. As school business managers, we have to constantly remind ourselves that as part of our professional competencies and disciplines, we have to be aware that our position, action and behaviours will affect our reputation and credibility as both individuals and as school business managers. In his book, Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion, Professor Robert Cialdini gives 6 laws or rules which govern how we influence and are influenced by others. There is the law of scarcity. Items are more valuable to us when their availability is limited. And then he goes down on through all the other laws that and persuades that you give something to people, they feel compelled to return the favour. We're more likely to comply with someone who is or resembles an authority. We're more inclined to follow the lead of someone who is similar to us rather than someone who is dissimilar. We view a behaviour as more likely to be correct the more we see others performing it. And consistency is seen as desirable as it is associated with strength, honesty, stability, and logic. In all areas of life, we will have noticed the people with self-confidence who get noticed, listened to, respected and followed, and the benefits to having a high level of self-confidence. The good news is that Goleman, 1996, and the Psychology's editor, Susie Greaves, 2016, both argue that self-confidence is not a gift given to a few, but it can be learned and developed. As with other personal effectiveness skills, the change comes from within you, and then you can exhibit it to others. This approach also links into one of Covey's 7 habits to develop inside out. It also links into the Johara window in that you have to be self-aware to understand empathy, behaviour, cooperation, etc. We have to be aware and know what we know about ourselves and what others know about us, what others see but we do not see, what we secretly know about ourselves and feelings, development, behaviour that neither ourselves or others know. The aim is to self-analyse and then look at ways to move yourself to the open window so that you can build up trust and share information on a professional basis with those people you interact with. So you can see that one of the influencing skills, as well as self-confidence and self-awareness, is coping with refusal. Brinkman and Kirshner, 2003, suggests that managers be patient when they come against refusal. Always appreciate that the negative person may be raising valid points, and through compromise you may be able to negotiate a more positive outcome. They suggest that if you are aware of a no person, you could deal with them in different styles. One approach is to turn the tables, think about any reasons for refusal and come up with them yourself so that they feel assured that you have dealt with an issue realistically, or because they are incurably negative that they want to prove you wrong even if they agree with you. Giving feedback. Always make it about the action, procedure or system and not the person. As with assertiveness, be honest directly with the person, but have a plan ready to provide future support for that person's development. Handling disagreements and conflict. Jones, 2008, says that handling conflict is partially about avoiding the conditions that foster conflict and partially about managing the hostility that conflict provokes. Prevention is better than cure. It is once again about understanding that as individuals we have different experiences and views and respecting this. It is about fairness and equality, and for the school business manager this is particularly relates to building teams and the arena of human resources. Mediating. This is the process of handling a conflict and would be more the situation where two members of staff have fallen into disagreement. Firstly, as a manager, you need to not ignore the conflict and do not take sides. Focus on the issue of the conflict, make the issues clear, agree a positive outcome for all that is win-win. The win-win scenario is also referred to by Covey in his book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He calls this the habit of interpersonal leadership, necessary because achievements are largely dependent on cooperative efforts with others. He says that win-win is based on the assumption that there is plenty for everyone and that success follows a cooperative approach more naturally than the confrontation of win or lose. Do not pass judgment, but allow both sides to reach conclusions and arrive at resolution. Of course, this only applies to healthy conflict. If you are dealing with negative conflict, this should just be nipped in the bud and avoided. So, developing self-confidence. From the Psychology's magazine 2016, we are told to focus on the following habits. 1. Assess yourself. That is, detach yourself from your emotions when you start to feel unconfident and analyse what you want or need to do. Keep learning. Congratulations, learners. Being on this course means that you have this habit already. Develop your willpower. Switch your thinking to how much you want something to happen. Talk about your positive experiences. Talk about your achievements and celebrate them. Tone down your worst thoughts. Identify your thoughts and then work out if they are correct and modify them to the truth. Ditch thinking for doing. Any activity can help to ignite confidence. Adopt good posture. Research shows that posture will make us feel more positive. Eat a well-balanced diet. Exercise. 5-minute morning wiggle. Work your way up through your body by becoming aware of it, as feeling confident is about using your entire body and body language. Breathe, breathe, breathe properly. For example, a technique in yoga known as breath of fire is to inhale deeply and exhale rapidly. But there are a lot of breathing exercises within Pilates, Tai Chi and yoga. Take good care of yourself. Do what energizes you and take time out of the office to enjoy the great school you are managing. Turn your home into your haven. Home is the support camp for you. Support, don't compete. Resist gossip and joining in with judgment, comments, and encourage staff. Be with confident people and do try to avoid the negative people. I'll just go into the questions panel because I've noticed that Sue has raised a question. Her sound's gone off 4 minutes ago. Is it me or your end, Sue? I haven't seen any other hands go up, Sue, so I'm presuming it must be at your end. Hopefully you're back online with us. If you do continue that you haven't got any connectivity, if you raise your hand. No, there's no raised hand, so we'll continue with assertiveness. Lindenfield, 2001, defines assertiveness as behaviours which help us to communicate clearly and confidently our needs, wants and feelings to other people without abusing in any way their human rights. It is an alternative to passive, aggressive and manipulative behaviour. If we want to be assertive, we must decide what we want, decide if it is fair, ask clearly for it, not be afraid of taking risks, be calm and relaxed, express our feelings openly, give and take compliments easily, give and take criticism. We must not beat about the bush, go behind people's backs, bully, call people insulting names, or bottle up our feelings. I do apologise, my screen is now frozen again. If you just bear with me while I try to get onto the next screen. There we go. So to summarise, tonight we've learned about effective communication, focusing on the theory, meetings and presentations and the importance of influence. This included theory, skills and developments. So I'm going to give you a chance, first of all, if there's any queries with regards to the topics that we covered this evening, if there's any questions that learners would like to ask tonight. If you want to raise your hands and then I'll unmute you. No hands at the moment. Okay then. If you do decide there is a question, by all means, just raise your hand at any time. So if we go on to, as I say, I sent out an email with regards to some brave learners coming forward to discuss what they want to do. And I asked for a brief overview to let the group know the skill you have chosen, why you chose this skill, and ideas. So first of all, we'll go to Linda, and I'll unmute Linda. Hello, Linda.
Hello.
Hi, all right.
Yes, fine, thank you. You?
Yeah, fine, thank you. And first of all, thanks for coming forward to, talk to the group about what you've decided. So I'll just pass it over to you.
Okay. When I was looking down the list of skills, I wanted to select one that was definitely going to benefit me, and at the end of this module, be one that I thought I'd actually achieved something. And obviously we can improve everything, but I have opted for presentations. The reason behind this is, I don't know, many people this may not be the case for, but certainly with me as a member of support staff, we aren't trained to present. It's something we just pick up as we go along over the years. And whilst I do present many times to governors, to senior leaders, to staff, etc., more often than not, it is in an informal setting. And I thought that this would be a very good opportunity to develop that skill and be able to confidently present to any audience. So to develop this, I'm planning on sitting in on as many presentations at our school every Friday morning. There is a CPD briefing where departments share best practice and present to the rest of the school. I've started already sitting in on all of those to look at different techniques. I'm obviously going to do research and develop some skills with regards to, of course, I can use PowerPoint, but Prezi and different other, because obviously depending on your audience depends whether PowerPoint's better or you want something a little bit more interesting, for example, if you were presenting to students. And then I've already planned in several different audiences that I'm going to present to in different formats. So I've already arranged to present to the entire school staff. Obviously, I'm going to be presenting to governors as I normally do, but I will present in a more formal manner. And certain staff in the audience will actually be evaluating what I'm doing and feeding back. So that's my plan so far.
Yeah, and I mean that is a really great idea, and you're quite right in what you say in that I think as well as the business manager, because we've sort of evolved from the bursar role, so we've been more the back office. We haven't been in the situations, have we, to take assemblies and that, but more and more you are hearing about business managers taking the forefront, becoming more involved with the day-to-day life of the school and such like. So that would be an excellent skill. Well done. So I look forward to hearing about how that develops and picking up some tips. So thank you, Linda, for sharing. I'll just take you off, put you on to mute again because of feedback. And now we'll go on to Zoe, who's another brave learner, come forward to share the topic that she's decided on. Hi, Zoe, can you hear me?
Hi Fiona,
Hi,
yes.
all right.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry, my internet's gone a little bit shaky throughout the presentation, so I hope that you can hear me okay.
Yeah, you're loud and clear here, Zoe, so hopefully the other learners can hear you. But you will come out on the recording as well, so that's always an advantage that people can go back over it.
Oh, lovely. I'm sure they'll like to hear my voice.
So you're going to give us a brief overview, the same as Linda.
Yeah, I don't think Linda sounded very articulate. I hope that I can manage to express myself as well. After I did the leadership and management survey, I managed to identify quite a few areas that I felt as though I needed to gain a little bit more experience, because at the moment I'm like clerk to governor and I'm the PA to the head teacher, so I'm not actually a business manager.
Right.
But within my role, I get a lot of the knowledge about the strategic view of the school. We're looking to start becoming an academy. So I really thought if I could develop my influencing skills, it would assist the business manager to kind of share the message with the rest of our team, because we've got quite a large team of support staff, and we're on a split site with 2 different offices. So that's really what I felt that I wanted to develop, and I thought I could do that by gaining more information about what all the roles of the office do, getting further insight into it, and then just using my skills and my knowledge to try and help achieve, you know, everybody having a good goal, and you know, assist with the academisation conversion.
Oh, brilliant. So when do you go to academy, your school?
Well, we're going to have a governors meeting on the 22nd of February when we come back from half term, and that's when the governors are actually going to vote. Sorry, I've got 2 young children.
All right.
Mummy's talking at the moment, Dylan. Yeah, we're having a governors meeting on the 22nd of February, but the build-up before then, we've met with many people from the DFE. We've had different companies come into the school to do presentations. I'm in quite a nice position because I've managed to coordinate meetings for our local cluster of primary schools. We work with about 6 local primary schools, and I've invited their governors, invited their senior leadership team. So we've kind of shared the journey up till now, and we'll be going probably as a multi-academy trust, but we'll be going first of all on our own, I would think. So yes, it's just I'm in quite a position where I've got knowledge, and I want to be able to use that to help the school, really, by sharing it in a good way, a positive way, because inevitably people are going to be a bit worried about the change and the politics of it all.
Yeah, so that's great, isn't it? Because as well, you'll be able to bring in a little bit about using good communication to influence, as you say, in a positive way. So yeah, that sounds another interesting topic to go down for your scenario. So again, very interesting. Looking forward to hearing that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe, for sharing that. I'll just mute you. Thanks. So there we have 2 sort of ideas. So hopefully if anyone is stuck and hasn't sort of got an idea as yet as to what skill area they want to develop, you can always get in contact with me direct. We can use your one-to-one tutorial if you want to go over your skill area. So if we just go on to reminders. So a reminder is that, as discussed at the other unit webinars, you need to plan out your course of action and submit this plan to me by the 25th of February, or you can submit it sooner. I'll just have a look at it, give you a brief feedback, and then you can set on your way at developing your skill area, maintaining a reflection log, and then obviously sort of think about drafting your assessment. Read the resources in the folder and maintain the reflection log as said. Record your considerations and reasons and the outcomes, as this will provide you with a useful guide as you go on to draft your assessment. The Module 3 webinar, I have sent out a registration email, and that's going to be on Thursday at 6:30. Thursday the 18th of February. That was the majority, that was the best time for people. I'm very aware that then that only leaves a week to the 25th of the deadline when you have to submit your action plan. So that is why I'm trying to encourage you to start thinking about it, planning it now, your skill area. So next, I have put on the email as well, if there's any other learners who would be willing to share next week just as Zoe and Linda have done tonight, what they plan to do, that would be great. So I'll just give you an opportunity if anybody's got any other questions that they've thought of in the meantime. Would you raise your hands? Right, I'll just unmute you, Sue. Hi, Sue, all right?
Hi, Heather.
Hi. Did it come back in again, the connection for you?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
brilliant, brilliant.
Thanks. I just wanted to ask, with all the reading that we have to do, and you're moving us through these modules quite quickly, is all the reading, is it recommended that all the reading that's associated with each module is done and dusted by the time we get onto the next webinar? Or is all this reading throughout the entire time that we're doing this?
Yeah, sorry. I mean, a lot of people have to sort of fit it in with obviously our working lives and such like. It was just that I was very aware that module 2 and 3 are sort of sit separately in that with unit 1 you're actually channeling down to a skill area such as influence, communication, presentations. So as they're sort of individual areas in their own right, I just wanted you to have a bit of a general overview of what skill areas you could actually choose. Maybe just start thinking about that and then read the module resources. It might be that you decide that you've already got quite highly developed skills in presentation, for example, but that you want to look at influencing people. So you might decide that you just want to focus down on the resources on influencing people while you get into that routine of having to think about the assessments, maintain a reflection log. The unit 2 and onwards, you won't actually have that deadline of submitting anything during the modules to me. And it's really that deadline because of your action plans, and I suppose it's a way to check that you're all happy and have decided what you're going to do your assessment, rather than leave it to last minute to find out that a learner has struggled with deciding. And it's really that deadline of the 25th of February that is driving me at the moment, whereas we won't have that with future units. So we will space out webinars, say, every fortnight. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, thanks, Sue.
Thank you.
Have you decided on a topic at all?
Not quite. I'm kind of. I've got a few in mind, but I'm waiting to work a bit more through the reading first.
Yeah, because I think
which I've been racing through, thinking I need to keep up with you.
No, I mean, that is the good thing as well about the recordings of the webinars, is that you can revisit it as well. If you think, oh, I think I will do communication, if you decide that in 2 weeks' time or a week's time, you can come back to this webinar recording and just refresh your mind on it. You can contact me. You can always ask a question in an email. That is fine.
Okay,
so
thank you.
is there any other questions from learners? Zoe? I'll just unmute you, Zoe. Hi, Zoe.
Hi there.
Hi.
Is there a word count for the action plan?
No, I mean, I wouldn't make it I think maximum 2 sides of A4 at the very maximum. You are just doing a sort of business case for why you've decided that, and you will use your action plan as an appendix in your assessment to show that you planned it out. This is what you were going to do. And in some ways the action plan is quite valuable, because often what we end up with at the end of when we've developed ourselves and we look at what we originally intended Sometimes it can be what we intended, other times it can be, well, actually, I went even further than that and developed myself, you know, in an area that I wasn't anticipating at the start. All of that is good reflection on how the modules and the contents of the modules have helped you improve as a business manager. Is that okay? But I would say definitely no more than 2 A4 sides.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right then, thank you. Okay, so at the moment we've got no other hands up. I'll just give it a few seconds in case there are any questions from other learners. No, that seems to be it for us for tonight. So once again, thank you for joining me tonight, and hopefully you have a good weekend and good half term for those of us that are off on half term, and those that are off on trips and such like, because I know a few have said that there's various visits going on this half term. Rome and Spain have been mentioned, so I'm very jealous, but have a lovely time, and I'll meet up with the rest of you next Thursday at 6:30. Thank you and good night.